My name is Rashonda, Walker's Legacy City Director for Washington, D.C. I am pleased to serve as your moderator today, and thank you for joining us. Named in honor of Madam C.J. Walker, Walker's Legacy was created with a mission to cultivate an ecosystem of access designed to inspire, equip, engage a global network of professional and entrepreneurial women of color. You can learn more about Walker's Legacy at www.walkerslegacy.com. Super excited about our guest this morning for our Cowork and Connect virtual morning chat series. We have no other than Sarah Fletcher, one of my good friends and faves. Sarah is a CEO, author, global podcast founder and host, international speaker and influencer. As the CEO and founder of the Greatness Realized brand of companies, Sarah has helped thousands of women reinvent their life, increase professional influence, and propel their careers and business forward. Her podcast, Welcome to Reinvention, is a global podcast in 22 countries and counting, and a part of Welcome Reinvention Media. It focuses on providing women reinventing various aspects of their life, health, relationships, finance, career, and business with tangible tools and resources like the podcast, blogs, coaching, and a community that are relevant and meeting them right where they are now. She is a published author, Declare, Unleash Greatness Through Mental Fitness, which gives readers access to life-changing process that allows them to win the silent battles in the mind they face every day. Please help me welcome Sarah Fletcher. Hi, Sarah.
Hello. Hi, Walker's Legacy. Nice to see you. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Cowork and Connect. How are you this morning?
I'm well. I'm so excited to be here. I'm very excited for a juicy conversation and that this is moderated by one of my personal faves. So this is such an honor.
Yes, it is. It is. I'm glad to have you in the hot seat today. Normally it's the other way around. So I'm just glad that people get to see you, hear from you, glean from you this morning. So we are really going to just jump right in. And this is going to be a power-packed conversation. So feel free, guys, to join in and ask plenty of questions as we go along. Sarah is a powerhouse, and I can't wait for you to get to know her. So, Sarah, listen, the title of your session today is called Reinvention. So before we jump there, I want to really know, just tell us a little bit about your journey. How'd you get here? I mean, CEO, author, influencer, founder, podcast host. I mean, everything. Tell us how you got here.
Wow. Short answer, God's grace, literally.
Yes. Yes.
Answer diving in. I am from the Show Me State. Hello to all my family and friends out in Kansas City, home of the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champions, barbecue undisputed. Talk about that later, and then jazz. But the long way, I was around an entrepreneurial family. I grew up in a family of strong women. My grandmother, my mother, my aunt, and I had really great examples of what it looked like, not just in the corporate space, but also looked like to own companies, to be in business at a time when women who are brown and Black and beautifully melanated, weren't really bringing down large dollars, weren't really bringing home, the check. I had family members who were, and I got to see those examples, and it inspired me. I worked early and often. I started working in 7th and 8th grade.
Nice. Nice.
So really getting my hands wet early in corporate America, as well as in the space of entrepreneurship, and seeing that, and then just I think trial and error, right? Having a dream, having that niche inside of you, that tap that won't let you go, that won't leave you alone. You have to explore.
Yeah.
And seeing where that took me. And really, it took me ultimately to the path of entrepreneurship. But I like to reference it as being a CEO, because I think there's a difference in your mindset to being an entrepreneur versus being a CEO. Being a CEO, I think, demands more of you. It actually demands that what you do is not a hobby. There's a greater level of responsibility and accountability, I think, that shows up with it. Not to knock those who love the word entrepreneur. I just think that in our society where we're hearing so much entrepreneurial fads and things like that. It really is about being a CEO. And what does that mean? And going back into time to wealth building, to generational wealth. And that CEO was really to create impact in the community. You had wealth so you could help others as well as support your family and create a legacy. So that's really how I'm here.
I love it. Just come out the gate then. She came out the gate, guys. Just like dropping the gems already. I like what you said about CEO and versus entrepreneurship. And yes, not knocking anyone who holds on, to the entrepreneurial spirit or naming conventions, because yes, we respect that just the same as the CEO. But I think what I hear you saying when you say that CEO, it actually it shows ownership. It shows like I own something. This is mine. When you think about the person that is in charge of a corporation or the person that is calling the shots and the founder, the CEO, the owner, they do walk with a different swag. They do walk with a different swag. They hold themselves accountable. They hold themselves accountable as well as the other people. And they're more inclined to dig a little deeper and push the envelope a little more because they feel like I can. Yes. So I love that. So I know, like, I love that you were unlike many, because a lot of people, you said some good things there. A lot of people didn't come from a generation of seeing people, Black women, women of color, build wealth in that way. It was always the man, if you grew up in the South, granddad and fathers, and the man was the breadwinner. And so you saw a different narrative than some of the others. Do you think that, how does that play now? We talk about Black women's equal pay, that just came up. And so how does that, do you think that brings about a different level of confidence when you approach situations that are maybe gender bias or gender norms in terms of male and female, because you did come from this strong lineage of female entrepreneurs and owners by, mindset and creating wealth in your family?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I just want to set the playing field. I love men. There's nothing better than a man. And I think in our society, we specifically that take every opportunity, I feel, to demasculate men in their position.
Yes.
So I always want to build them up. And so while I was in a family of strong women who were entrepreneurs, but who were also in corporate America, who were also teachers and things like that, I also had strong men who were go-getters as well, and who brought home the bacon, who closed deals, were on boards, were very instrumental, things like that. So I definitely want to give them the limelight and space.
Yes.
Both. But in terms of seeing women at a time when we didn't see women, yes, I absolutely had that exposure. And I think what it's done for me, specifically my mom, I always say, and if you have my book, you know that everything good about me, I personally believe, is my mom. And she is just such an incredible woman in that I saw the strength of one woman do amazing things. She put her kids through school, but then she also went and got 3 degrees. She worked 3 jobs. So to me, not being able to do something never entered my mind.
It
never occurred to me that it wasn't possible. It never occurred to me that it was lofty, that we could go get it done. That we handle the business, right? I always saw that. And so for me, I think that really translates into how I show up, what I do, what I choose to attack. I'm always doing multiple things, but it doesn't occur to me that I can only do one. So
I like that. And I can agree. I mean, my mother was the same way. Everything has always seemed possible for me.
Yes.
Because I saw them, were my grandmother, my great grandmother, and just the same, the women and the men in the family being the worker bees and the ones that worked so hard to do so much, and they accomplished so much that I was able to, this, what I have in me, I always say that I am definitely living out my ancestors' prayers in my everyday walk, because they did it before and they just wanted us to be able to do it even more. And so I totally agree with that. I love it. So let's talk about reinvention a little bit. So this session is called Welcome to Reinvention. what does that mean? Talk to me about that, because it sounds like to me like this wasn't a reinvention. This was like, you know, an ongoing thing. I grew up in it, and I kind of carrying the torch. So talk to me about reinvention and where that, like, where did we get that from? Where did you come up with that?
Great question. So I think reinvention, one, comes in for us as women. It's a gift, and it's often wrapped in change.
Yeah.
You don't like it. I personally don't always like reinvention. But we also know that there are very specific times in our life when we do have to reinvent. My first company that was going to do really well, and we were doing really well with it, I had an angel investor who wanted to invest into the company. And this was, what was it, 09 or something like that? The first big crash.
Yeah.
And had done all the vetting. We were going to take this to major cities and repressed areas and take this specific model and build it out and really change lives. And ultimately, they ended up lying. They didn't tell me that things had changed and that they weren't going to be able to fulfill their promise to me. So while I'm waiting on certain things to come in, I actually lost everything. So here I am, sitting in my car. My mom is in a different state, you know, but I had the fortitude and presence. I literally sat in my car and I said, God, whatever you're teaching me, whatever you want me to know, I'm open to it, because I will not go around this mountain again.
Yes.
Whatever we need to do, however long we need to be here, I'm open, but this is what I'm going to learn. All of it.
Yeah.
But in that moment, that's reinvention. I hadn't anticipated it. I hadn't looked for it. I wasn't ready for it. I didn't want it, especially with those circumstances and everything that came with it. But that was reinvention. And so as I've worked with women over the years, one of the common threads is this concept of reinvention, whether we want it, whether there's that little tap and nudge that says, hey, come on, let's go play in this area. You know, I've been waiting for you to come and fulfill the juicy place that you know you're supposed to be in, right? All those things, or whether it's that relationship that crumbles right in front of you, the career, COVID-19, all the layoffs, things like that, things you didn't see coming, invitations for reinvention. So women, I found, were always reinventing. I was even reinventing. And I think when I looked at it, I said, gosh, we really need tools and resources that that call it what it is, and that help us through this process in a way that we can grow, collapse time, and catapult to the juicy places we want to play in.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I think ultimately it makes it okay to reinvent, because people struggle with reinvention. Like I tell people all the time, I'm a change agent. So I welcome change. While the transition of change may be hard, I welcome the change itself, because I understand that it's needed. But many people struggle with reinvention because they don't think it's okay.
A shame.
Yeah.
That stigma, like, oh my gosh, I was here, and now I'm here. What am I going to do? And it's a quiet tone that happens. No, we are reinventing.
Right. It's okay. And it's a part of the evolution. So it's okay to evolve. And I'm glad that I think we see a lot of that in 2020. So, you know, a lot has happened in the world. You know, before we even dive into other things, I want to stick with this reinvention just a little bit, because the pivot that took place for 2020 for many people has been a reinvention. People have had to become more innovative. People have had to dial and tap into spaces that they would not have otherwise touched. It's no more, I don't want to do this and I don't like to do this. It's now like, okay, maybe I need to think about that, and I gotta do this, you know? And so talk to me about what has reinvention in this pivot with the pandemic and these unprecedented times that we're living in. How has that been for you? Like, what has reinvention looked like for you during this situation?
That's a great question. So just being very transparent, like many other business owners and such, going into 2020, I was actually slated to do several million in the first quarter. That actually took a detour. Not being able to come together and congregate in large groups, right?
Yep.
So a lot of the models, specifically mine, took a hit in that regard. Not that it was lost, but just had to be redirected. So when I look for sustainability. That's always there. However, beyond sustainability, what is the backup? And so that was a huge lesson learned in terms of implementing a structure. So you can have plan A, and I always recommend sticking with plan A, and your plan should also be your plan A. But in cases where you're doing everything right, and there's outside economic forces when you're in business school that you learn about that we're seeing, i.e. the pandemic. What is that plan? What is the contingency, and how can you integrate it into your business, into your model in a way that actually creates the sustainability and the longevity, and more importantly, that doesn't mess up your money? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I know we all can attest to this, the pandemic, the patience of the pandemic. I call it pandemic patience because it made us, we had to get patient with our time and what this pivot took. Walker's legacy, we had plenty of events. My personal business, plenty of things were scaled out for 2020, and it just looks nothing. It looked nothing like it. And so we all did see a hit in certain areas. And I think that you said something wonderful, because I was going to say, people always say, don't have a plan B, or don't focus on a plan B. But I like that you said your plan B should be your plan A. And I get it. And what I heard when I heard you say that was plan A. So plan A was in person, hundreds of people, right? But because you don't have control of certain outside forces, just think about if you're having an outdoor wedding. If you're having an outdoor wedding scheduled for November 13th, you still have the wedding on November 13th. But if it rains, everybody knows that plan A, the wedding is going on, but we're just moving it inside.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that that's the same concept of what we're saying when we say, hey, have your plan A and B can be the same. It's just the way you implement it.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love it.
The other thing too that I grew greater presence to, and I think I've always done this, but just the ability to slow down during the pandemic and during COVID allows you to see different things. And I think one of the greatest things as CEOs, as women in position, that we can do for ourselves is, in the panic, whether it's external or internal, is slow down, because we already have the answer. We already know the direction, but often it's about, okay, quieting your brain, literally slowing it down, slow down. Now, where is the answer? And ask yourself, where is the answer? And then you'll see it. You'll find it. But, oh, okay, that's the step I need to take to keep going.
Yeah.
I coached other women to do that, and it was really, really fruitful and powerful as well. So if I can just share that as a nugget, as knowledge, definitely do that, because we already kind of know, but often we're so busy, we miss it.
And we miss it. Yeah, I agree. Oh, I love that. I agree. That's a confirming point also for me, being one of those persons that it's always so busy and always running and traveling and doing certain things. So the slowdown during this time has been one of the most beneficial aspects of the pandemic for me. It slowed down in terms of physical, in terms of the body, in terms of running, while business picked up, which was crazy, but business picked up. But I'm able to kind of absorb and see and pay attention just a little bit more, and not just stay on script. I mean, I call it unconventional leadership now. So it's very unconventional, so, but that's for another conversation. But I love that. And so what do you think? You said, slowing down is one thing. What are some more challenges or barriers to people in this reinvented space? They have been forced to slow down. That's one thing. So slowing down and really seeing the thing through and paying attention. But what are some other barriers or things that you've seen have been barriers to people successfully reinventing?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've really gotten away with the reliance on technology and a lot of other things and other resources. We've gotten away from, one, trusting ourselves, and two, betting on ourselves. So in a time like this, specifically, if you doubt yourself, if you have trouble believing that you are the secret sauce, that you are the game changer you've been looking for, that you are the bridge to the access that you need, that's going to be a huge barrier of entry for you to actually move, to take the opportunity in the pandemic, to create your own opportunity. I posted today, a lot of people at the beginning of the pandemic, there was all this talk about slow down, relax, let up, Take it easy. Nothing's going to happen. Your goals, dreams, and desires for the year are not going to come to fruition. Listen, let me just help the Walker Legacy Foundation family and
Come on.
you, okay? There are people out here winning. You hear me? Winning, pulling down large checks, making a difference. I've gone to more places this year globally than I have probably in the last, 10 years. I left my house one time. That is the power that's happening right now at your fingertips. And so I think the inability to believe and bet on you is huge. And creating a plan that thrusts you to the limelight. Listen, I know sometimes it's challenging for us as women to really kind of step into our shine, right? We talked about this on the podcast, like stepping into who you are and owning that. But if you're not going to be in the driver's seat, in the car, in the vehicle of your life, if you're not going to drive it, I mean, we need to see who the driver is of this vehicle. So if that's not, who is it? Who's it going to be? Like, we're waiting on you. No one can replicate what you have. So I think that is the biggest inhibitor to leveling up, the barrier of entry, to playing all out, to meeting the needs that you might have for your family, whether it's your kids, whether it's your extended family, your parents, whatever you're doing. That's the biggest barrier I've seen.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I want to do the snaps, like the Love Jones, because I mean, this was good. No one can replicate what you have. And that's so powerful. And people, I love to say, I say it so much, and I think people say it in a more cliche, way, like, don't compare yourself. The only person that can do it is you, etc. But they don't believe it yet.
No.
So you have to say it over and over again. I tell people, I'll listen to the songs that encourage you, or those words, or those scriptures, or those affirmations that that live and resonate with you the most. Say them over and over again. So if I'm saying over and over again, no one can replicate what you have. No one can replicate, change it to what I have. And I say that over and over again. Eventually, I'm going to believe it, right? Somebody's going to believe it. But I think that I think people just, they say it because they see it and they repost it and they're like, yeah, but they don't believe it. They don't believe it. So I like all of what you said just there. And that's a very great segue into Declare, because everything that you said, this comes from a relational intelligence and a mindset. This comes from a mindset point of view. Like, you have to be there, because some people, if we're honest, they're just not there. They're just not, they don't have the wherewithal to push themselves, and they need people like a Sarah Fletcher, like a coach, or like a organization like Walker's Legacy, or people or things to push them over into that. So talk to me a little bit about Declare and this mental fitness. You wrote a book about just that for people who don't have that wherewithal. Tell us about the book a little bit and where that came from.
So back to your initial question about reinvention, one of my darkest times, if you will, was a space that shortly after all that had happened, and I was just sitting on my couch. And I'm not going to say I was depressed, but I was very low, right? And for me, being a very upbeat person, very on the go, energized, energetic, positive, I wasn't negative, but I was down, okay? I was very low. And what I realized in that moment is, for me, I was just passing through this space. I knew that I had the tools to get out of this, to actually deal with what it was that I was seeing. And really, like I told you, I'm going to sit here and look at everything and get everything, because I'm not coming back. So I was being comfortable with the space, looking around, seeing things, letting my mind think about how to process this. And then I was putting myself in the position of others at the same time. How are other people dealing with this? Because if you don't have the tools to deal with this, you're not going to make it. There is no way. I understood at that point suicide on a greater level, because it's a deep, deep feeling of feeling lost.
Yeah.
You don't have the way out, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was, how can I provide a tool, knowing that I'm coming out of this, because I do know how to navigate this situation, for others. And it ended up being a book. It ended up being Declare, which is all about mental fitness, to your point, and how to actually overcome those silent battles and wars we face, even with smiles on, right? Even with all the on, right? All the clothes, the hair done, the makeup, everything. How do you win those wars literally and change the direction and catapult trajectory of your life? So for me, that's the book. It literally goes through a systematic approach.
Okay.
How to do that. Then it also gives you exercise over 12 months. If you want to read a chapter a month, or even, you can read it, in a couple weeks, what have you. But it gives you affirmations and it asks you to deconstruct them. So really it's giving you access to coaching with me for 20, 25 bucks, something like that, because I believe in access. I believe that we need access. That's one of the greatest inhibitors to the things that we want to do. And so that's why I wrote the book, just passionate about people really changing their life and having a tool that they can do that with.
Nice. I love it. So guys, you heard that. The book is what, $22. You can find it on where? Tell them where they can find it while we're talking about it.
Amazon.com. If you want a signed copy, you can go to declaregreatness.com and order a copy. I'm happy to sign it and send it to you.
Yeah, we just had to do the shameless plug, throw it in where it is. Let's tell them where to find it. I mean, again, that's free coaching for $22 to $25, guys, with Sarah Fletcher in the flesh, with a systematic approach. I like that. I like that it's deconstructing affirmations, because again, people also need that. We say things that we don't always understand. And so I think that is absolutely amazing. And so we talked about the coaching, you talked about the mindset, and let's talk a little bit more about these tools. I mean, you're a powerhouse. You have tools that to help people propel to the next level. You have the podcast, we have the book, you have this coaching. So tell us a little bit about the Reinvention community and the tools and the access to the resources that you're providing for women of color like ourselves.
Yes, ma'am. So we're actually a global community that I'm honored, and I pinch myself every day because did this just happen and how am I here? But here we are. Yeah. So it's a very cool experience. I'm very grateful for the women in the community. We have mentorship. We are mentoring some women specifically in Cambodia right now to actually bring their business from zero to on the ground and running in about 12 months. That's exciting. We're also working with women in Namibia and other countries with coaches to actually start their own business. CEO made simple. So a lot of the times when you purchase a course, I call it, you have course fatigue. You purchase it and then you don't do anything with it. So now you still have all this noise and you're still confused. I strip it all the way down. And believe me, when I say strip it down, that is what I mean. It's not aesthetically pretty, but it's powerful and it will get you to where you want to go. Because a lot of times, ladies, we buy things for the aesthetic, and that's where we get wrapped up in. And we have no more power than the aesthetic we purchased. Okay. So that's what that program is about. And then for my ladies who are in the corporate space, just like we weren't taught on how to navigate our finances, we weren't taught about personal finances or anything like that. We weren't taught how to navigate corporate America. There is no school you go to do that. There's no school that teaches you how to be your boss. You might have mentors when they have time for you. You might have champions when they have time for you, things like supporters. But they're invested in their own careers, their own advancement, things like that. But with this program, it's called The Game.
Okay.
We actually teach you everything you need to know to navigate your corporate experience and increase your income in about 90 days. I've done it with a lot of women. I've always said, if you want something done, you should sit next to me.
Yeah.
We're going to push you to that spot. So I'm really excited about it. The results, they speak for themselves and they're amazing. So those are just a few more of the things that we provide in the community. And then the podcast, we have some juicy things happening with that. So it's good time.
I love it. I just wanted to kind of, let the people know what it is that you have out there, the offerings, the benefits, because when we're building community, I think a lot of people just need some people, how they say you have not because you ask not. Well, most people don't ask because they don't know who to ask or where to go. So we have to take moments like this, like the Cowork and Connect, and say, hey, you know what? There was a young lady on Cowork and Connect. This is a time where, you were drinking your tea, doing your meetings, but listening in. And she said something, and I know that that's something, a need of mine or something that I've been shying away from. I can go over there and see if there's an offering for me. So I love that. We talk a lot about the person who's ready to do it. I want to talk a little bit now, as we walk towards closing out a little bit, but I want to talk about the barriers to not reinventing. Like the thing, if I choose, if I wanted to, but I don't know how, I haven't even tapped into the resources. What would you say to the person who is not reinventing? Like what's the damage of a person who does not reinvent?
That's a heavy question. So what I would say from my coaching space, and I mean this, is there's nothing wrong with your life right now. You're perfect, you're complete, you're good. Sure, you see things that you want to enhance, make better, make stronger. You have that nudge, that itch to do whatever it is, but literally where you are is good now. But that said, where you want to be, is better. So for those who choose not to reinvent, who choose not to answer that call, I think they already know. I think we already know. If you don't move forward in the reinvention, that it probably will get worse. Not that you can't handle that aspect, but it probably will get worse. You're not going to see the change you desire. You're still going to watch people who you think have less ability than you pass you, dance all over the juicy places that you want to be in, that are specifically created for you, but you are afraid, deathly terrified, knees shaking of taking those steps into the unknown because you don't know and you don't have a plan. And that's fine. But all the juiciness happens outside of our comfort zone. Knees shaking, boots shaking, that's where we all go to dance and figure it out. So the invitation is really not to know what you're doing. The invitation is to get comfortable with the unknown and trust that every step you're taking is the next best step for you. So I think when you don't reinvent, you see a lot of doors closing. You wonder why things are dried up around you, why it's not the way it should, why that relationship is harder than when it should be, why your finances aren't where they are, why your money looks the way it looks, why you're having the negative conversations you're having. It's because there's a higher, more juicy place that's waiting for you to come in, but you haven't really said yes yet. And if you have said yes, they're kind of doing this back and forth situation as opposed to just jumping into it, walking into it and standing there and then taking steps powerfully forward. So I think that's what it looks like for women. We choose not to answer that call.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I love that you said when you choose not to answer the call, because I believe that even the greatest thing and even the most perfect thing in the good situation that you're in, and as good as you are, that there's always room to do more and to be more and to lean in further, because it's a constant evolution. So I think that is absolutely amazing. I want to recap a couple of things you said. You made a point earlier about, people buying and leaning into aesthetics, things that look good, things that look pretty. And I always talk about perfect imperfections in my personal journey and in my coaching experiences with others. And talk a little bit about getting over how you were able, because look at you, you're beautiful, you have these resources, these tools, and like many of us, we wanted to look good going out the door. But some way down the line, for some people, they won't produce or do it or lean into it because it's not perfect. So talk a little bit about how you were able to say, you know what, it's down and dirty and it may not be pretty, but it works and it's impactful. How were you able to kind of push through perfectionism? Because I know a lot of us have it. Yeah. And I know you, so I know that you got a little bit in you as well, because I know you. And so we, we all do, and we share that in common. And so there's many amazing things. And I know there's probably people watching. There's many amazing gifts and talents and instruments that we have our hands on the inside of us that we won't even leap into because we're scared that it's not perfect. Yeah. Don't have the right covering. It doesn't have the right font. It doesn't have the right flow. So talk a little bit about getting over perfectionism and just doing it anyway.
Whew. Mouthful. Yes, ma'am. The short answer is done beats perfect every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Love it.
So going into the deep answer of this, at some point in time, right, you really have to begin to use what you have. You don't get more of what you desire until you use what literally is in front of you. People that you see winning who maybe aren't as articulate than you know, who don't as well as you do, who don't have the creative genius that you have, who don't have the connections or the resources that you do, who whatever, the list goes on and on. They are winning because they are implementing and executing.
Yes.
They're not winning because of how they look. They're not winning necessarily because of their packaging. They're winning because of their passion. Literally, because they got up, decided to go get it done, put it together, and submit it somewhere. And then you have to understand momentum. So once you push the ball up the hill so long, and it's kind of arduous at first, once you get to the top, that thing just starts to cycle and it just starts to roll. And so then the wins that you see after they get to the top of the hill, where it just like, man, it's back to back to back to back, what's happening? That's the momentum. That's what they submitted that wasn't perfect, that had spelling errors, that they didn't know where they were going to send it to, that they made the video and they probably looked crazy, their lighting was off, all the things.
Yeah.
But that's what won, sis. That is what won, and that's what started their trajectory. So the invitation is really just to start. Whenever I start to deal with perfectionism, I'm like, no, done beats perfect. Let's submit it. Just do something, you know, and we all have our days, right? When I start to really think about everything that I'm doing or even everything that I'm getting ready to do. I just laid in the bed. If I could be honest with the family, I just laid in the bed. Today, I laid in the bed and I just sat there like, do you understand the energy that is getting ready to be sucked from me to do this, to show up in the way that I wanted to? But I was okay with laying there because I know the trade-off. I know I have that time to look at that and say, it's okay. It's not going to be perfect. It's okay that I'm going to make mistakes, that I don't know what's going to happen, but I am committed to playing all out. I'm committed to taking that next step. I don't need to know all of it, just the next step.
Yeah.
And because something happens that's magic when you take this step and when you show up. You don't have to know what's going to happen. You don't have to know, but just take the step and show up. So that's how I personally bat being perfect in having that thing. And perfection is just a lie. It's just a lie. None of us are perfect. We literally just take what we have, use it, work it, and then we get a little more. And we take that, use it, work it, and we get a little more and continue this process.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. I want to see if we have any questions. I don't know if we have any questions from the audience or not. I don't think so. I don't see any out there, but I'm sure there will be on the replays and you know, the share, because this was juicy. I love that word, juicy. She said, listen, the juicy place, you know, so this was juicy and I absolutely love it. And thank you for joining us and dropping these gems today. Guys, listen, done is better than perfect every day. Done is better than perfect every day. And no one can replicate what you have. And keeping those things at the forefront as we move forward, ladies. If that wasn't a mouthful by itself, I think you know that Sarah Fletcher she dropped it off today. And so I'm excited. I'm grateful that you shared this space and time with us this morning. And so, again, let's tell them where to find you. You can find the book at www.declaregreatness.com. And Sarah, you're going to drop your handles. We're going to make sure that you know how to get in touch with Sarah Fletcher. If you could, you know, use some of these great, amazing resources that she has to offer. And I'm just grateful to know you, girlfriend.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to honor you and give you so much kudos for legacy. It's so important for women of color, our legacies, what we're building, what we're up to. Thank you for being a resource and support in the community, a champion and an advocate for so many. I honor you.
Thank you.
Magical. And I thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you guys for joining us and we appreciate it. And listen, join us again next week. If you want to find out any of our upcoming events For Walker's Legacy, you can reach us at www.walkerslegacy.com. Thank you and enjoy your workday.
Have a good day.